Hello and welcome to this exclusive series on Future Fit Publishing, organized by AdTech India and Yukta Media. I'm Shiny, your host for today, and I handle content for AdTech in India. In our first episode, we discussed the role of technology in the publishing business and how it is revolutionizing both the newsroom and the business floor today. Our second episode talks about unlocking the power of data for content and revenue management. Data is the new oil. But if data is oil, I'd say consent or user consent to use their data is even more important. So if data is oil, I'd say consent is gold. First-party opt-in data is the most valuable commodity most brands today possess. For everything from consumer experience to revenue optimization, data becomes the center point for publishers and brands. Hear from the biggest publishers and agencies on how they're unlocking the power of data to serve their consumers better, yield optimization, advertising management, and much more. Our first session today focuses on the power of data to create best-in-class experiences for consumers, especially those consuming video content at large. How can behavioral data be best utilized? And to discuss this, we have with us Ronak Parikh, who is the Vice President and Head of Audience Sciences at Wavemaker, Shashank Vaishnav, who's the co-founder and CTO at The Stage. Previously, he was co-founder at the Witty Feed. Aditya Bhilande, who's the founder and CEO at Yukta Media. A big shout out to Yukta Media here for partnering with us in this initiative. Yukta's mission is to lead publishers on a digital transformation journey to build a long, engaging relationship with their audiences. Using the Yukta One Media ERP, publishers identify their most valuable digital assets and audiences at scale by automating data management, ad ops, revenue operations, and the billion reconciliation process. Moderating the session, we have Rajiv Dhal, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at Z5. Welcome, speakers, and over to you, Rajiv.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's kickstart. So, as we all would have read, and we are all aware, privacy is now center stage, and the regulatory bodies across the globe are busy defining the new rules of compliance. India will also soon see its GDPR equivalent, which is right now called as PDPB. And that regulatory framework is built around data collection, processing, storage, usage, transfer. Everything needs to be well thought through. Strategy from every growing organization, be it brands or be it publishers. So today we have a very fair representation of the digital advertising value chain on the panel. Let me start with Shashank, who's recently launched a Haryanvi OTT platform called Stage. First of all, congratulations. You guys are really smart and ahead of the curve. The question to you is, Shashank, Stage is one of the first mainstream app for Haryanvi content. So let's take Haryanvi as one of the strongest. It's not a dialect. It's an offspring of Hindi, and maybe we'll learn in the process on origin itself. And it's a very bold step. So I have a question for you, which is, you must be targeting a very unique segment. Very keen to understand the role of third-party data that you have used in your customer acquisition strategy. What kind of data signals help you in identifying people whom you think have a high propensity to consume Haryanvi content in a paid subscription model? So you've got two interesting challenges. A, Haryanvi dialect or language, and second, paid subscription primarily. You give, I think, 10 minutes of free and everything else is paid behind the paywall.
Yeah.
How do you go about it in terms of building your infra and partnerships? Just talk us through this strategy, please.
Sure. So our thesis was to create premium and sensible content for rural India. So which was not the case before Stage. When we talk about Haryanvi, content was available on YouTube, but the kind of songs and videos we used to see in Haryanvi was sleazy. So we thought there is a gap. The people who live in small villages, they also want to consume premium and good quality content. So we thought we can give that value to the user. So we launched Stage 2 years back, 1.5 years back, with this idea. And initially it was completely free. So we had around 1.5 million users on our free application, and we analyzed closely uh, who all users and what is the behavior of the user who are spending more than 5 hours on the app. We took all the phone numbers of those users and has created a segment of user. Based on that, we created a lookalike audience, and then we targeted only those audience who are most likely to buy the subscription when we launched our subscription 2 months back. And we are seeing a phenomenal result there. We are doing like 10,000 paying subscribers right now. Every month we are doing 5,000 paying subscribers. Right now we have around 12,000 paying subscribers, and we think by the end of this year we'll be reaching 100,000 paying subscribers in just Haryana.
That's amazing. So basically, you primarily, first of all, netted some customers.
Yeah.
Then you've done a lookalike to target. So you've not really gone on to use the third party.
No, no.
Right now, you've not.
No.
Very interesting. So moving on from here, Ronak, you have access to a lot of data and you have access to so many brands that you work for at Waymaker. So I have a lot of questions for you. What has been your experience of working with third-party data partners?
Sure.
And I'm bringing it again and again. The reason being, there are a lot of strategies today that are dependent on third-party data, besides the boom which is happening in building first-party data.
Right.
Ultimately, the game is going to be a collaboration of both. It cannot be only dependent on one area beyond a point, right? So what has been your experience of working with third-party data partners? How do you use them currently from, say, from a brand outreach perspective?
Right.
Besides third-party data, are the brands considering using privacy-compliant clean rooms for exchange of their first-party data, say, collaborate with another like brand of like a Nike and maybe a sporting company? Kind of association. Do you see such associations only a theory, or it is practical right now? Just share some examples and case studies if you can.
Sure. So thanks, Rajiv. So I'll just break down your question into two parts actually. First is the whole third-party data piece and how we are utilizing it, right? I think we use it to embellish our targeting across brands, right? Wavemaker, we have variety of brands across industries. And I think what these third-party data providers give us is a lot of nuanced targeting, which may not be necessarily present, say, in the existing ecosystem. So for example, if I want to target a very high ARPU audience, then that's possible through a third party data provider. Say I want to target a very heavy e-com user, that sort of nuancing may be present with third party data providers, right? The unique ability what these partners bring to the table for brands is the kind of segmentation possibilities, right? Because they work with a variety of partners, and that's possible to enhance the whole targeting piece as far as our brands are concerned. Just to add to wherever we've used the third party data ecosystem, the way it's helped us is a lot of improvement in our downstream metrics, right? So in terms of cost per acquisition going down, or in terms of your view throughs, etc., going up, and so on and so forth. So we see a lot of improvement in terms of media metrics when we've utilize these third party data providers, right? So that's important. I also want to go and touch upon the fact that the business models of these third party data providers is changing phenomenally. So today, if you look at a Zeotap, for example, they are sort of transitioning into a customer intelligence platform, right? So they are into this whole model of kind of onboarding of data, enriching of data, first party data, and activation of data. So as you very rightly pointed out, Rajiv, the way we look at it is just not from a third party sense, but how do you sort of marry the third party data targeting capabilities as well as utilize their intelligence from a first party enrichment and an activation standpoint. So at least the way we look at third party data partners is a very cohesive solution, and not kind of a either or solution, right? The second part of your question is on data clean rooms. Absolutely, I think we're doing a lot of work as Group M and as Wavemaker in this space. At Wavemaker, basically we worked with Google, essentially Group M and Google, and we've developed something called Bridge, which is a proprietary data clean room. And one of the very interesting pieces of work we've done for our client, which is a mobile company, phone company, wherein which we've kind of ingested their data, the CRM data, and we've also run a parallel campaign. And because of the whole data room capabilities, we've seen a huge improvement in metrics, right? Metrics like in terms of the number of visits going up, the quality of visits, the cost per acquisition, the cost per quality leads. So we're doing a lot of work in the data clean room space for better insights, planning, and targeting.
Fantastic. I mean, that seems extremely exciting. So you are really harnessing the data, be it third party or first party.
Yeah.
Quickly extending the thought of clean room, there is also a possibility of two of your brands. It could be a digital brand and a non-digital brand collaborating with each other. Do you see a movement in that direction as well to enrich each other, becoming a second party for each other?
Absolutely, absolutely, Rajiv. We see a lot of opportunities in this, like this whole principle of data consortiums, right? Where, say, two parties coming in together and sort of leveraging data. So, say, for example, if I have an airline client, I may tie up with a client who's in the business of hotels, and they can leverage each other's data in terms of 2P partnerships. So, that's again a very prevalent trend, and brands will embark on that journey if they haven't actually.
Fantastic. And I'm sure consent management through the value chain would be a requirement, and which is where the ad tech comes into place. So, moving to you, Aditya, I want to ask you, what are the ways in which you are helping brands and publishers in building and managing privacy compliant data management platforms or CDPs to harness large volume of user data? So, in this interplay, where exactly are you currently standing, and what are the services that you're offering or willing to offer or planning to offer?
Sure. Again, I think what we have heard till now on data is definitely very critical, and data is kind of driving everything right now. So from our perspective, when we work with brands or publishers, we follow like a 5-step process to make sure that we are compliant in terms of privacy. So the 5-step process is basically collect, cleanse, connect, crystallize, and consume. So those are the 5 steps. So I'll quickly go through each one of them. Number one is data collection. As you can see, we have first party data, second party data, third party data. So the data is coming from all over the place. So the first thing you have to make sure that data can be collected consistently and at scale, and that's what we enable in step number one. So making sure that the data is coming in consistently, it's accurate, it's if there's no issue with data. If there is, then we kind of raise alarm and do things like that. Second is cleansing, which is anonymization of data. Again, extremely critical. Once you have first party and third party data together, you have to make sure that it is used in a privacy compliant way, and hence anonymizing that data is critical. There are a number of different ways that you can anonymize the data and still use it in a way which is very effective to reach your target audience. Third is connecting the data, so which is helping brands and publishers share that data in an anonymized manner. So traditionally, there has been the thought process has been that, hey, if I'm a publisher and if I want to share the reuse that data, then I have to kind of upload my first party data into every let's say ad tech provider. But we are kind of moving away from that. Now there is technology and solutions in place where you can still keep complete control of your data and connect it using IDs and other ways to third-party data, and also leverage it so that eventually you have the complete control of when you want to provide access. And if you stop working with a partner, you can remove access and that data doesn't remain with the partner anymore. So that way, from a privacy perspective, you're in complete control of that data. So that connection piece is evolving very well, and I think as there was some talk about consortium as well. So as this data gets connected, it will being able to share it in a way so that it's not we are not moving data. That will be the case. So data wouldn't have to be moved; it will just be connected and be able to reuse and then get disconnected. Uh, Fourth is crystallize. Obviously, once you have leveraged that data, you want to understand how that data is working. What are the uh, what is the impact of that data on the goals that you have set up. And the last step is to consume, which is to understand the impact of that data and come full circle and make sure that you can make adjustments to all the remaining four steps to keep increasing the impact of that data on the revenue. So so all of these things can be done in a kind of automated manner and at scale. And I think our goal is to make sure that we can help brands and publishers, big or small, leverage the data that they have.
Fantastic. So basically, everything that you've mentioned in last few minutes has to be done in few milliseconds for it
Yes,
to be effective in real life scenario.
that
So
is correct.
honestly, I'll tell you, last 4 5 years were the stage or age for DMP.
Yeah,
All discussions used to go around DMP and third-party data. DMP, third-party data, data enrichment. Now the narrative and discussion, because of privacy coming into center stage, is completely shifting away from these two. They'll remain important
yeah,
to come into first-party strategy. Any brand
absolutely.
that you talk to, any publisher that you talk to, has either signed or about to sign a first-party data partner, a CDP
Yeah,
data partner. DMP is passe. That's where the market is moving towards. So the next part of the discussion is completely zooming into first party data. So Shashank, you must be capturing and using a lot of first party data. Like you said, you're looking at their behavior, their consumption pattern, their taste clusters and everything. You must be creating either engagement models or content recommendation models or audience segmentation models. There'll be 1,000 uses that you must be doing. What's the data captured by you? What's your strategy in terms of recommended infra to harness large volumes of data? Please share some of your learnings. If you can openly share whatever is not
Yeah.
confidential, how should a company go about it? It's like kind of going to you and saying, you are ahead of the curve, you've understood how to capture and harness. Can you tell others?
Yeah, sure. So we have tried a lot of interesting things. So with the experience of BT Feed, we used to have like 150 million users every month on our site. We used to capture all the activity they do on the website. So same thing we are doing here as well in Stage. We are capturing each and every activity of the user. So in BT Feed, what we used to do, we used to store all the data in our server, and it was really expensive. Real-time data we'll have to capture. Server should not go down. We'll have to maintain all infra. Now what we are doing, we are using a third-party tool called Amplitude for analytics. So we fire each and every event, each and activity of the user in Amplitude with all the required properties of that event. Then Amplitude gives us that data in JSON format every day. Every 24 hours, I pull out the data and store into our BigQuery in Google storage. And then we write so many algorithms which will process the data and prepare it in a form so that we'll use it for analytics part. This is the first thing. Second thing, this is the data of the consumption of user. Now, second, and which is very important and interesting thing we have done it here is that we really want to know the age of the user and the gender of the user, but we can't really ask them because some of the people drops from there and then don't want to interact with the form and everything. So what we are doing, so we are using paid acquisition from Google and Facebook. So we are harnessing the power of Facebook and Google here. We are creating advertisements with the age group 18 to 25. Now from that specific ad, for whoever people came on our application are of that age group, automatically our system will know that this person is came from this ad, which means the age group is this. He is male or female. Uska persona kya hai, what area pin code is coming from, everything we are collecting. Now we have this enormous information of the user with us harnessing the power of Google and Facebook. Then above this data, we have written logistic regression algorithm so that we will be able to identify based on the previous usage of the user, and we can see in future what kind of user, what type of user, what demography of user will want to consume what kind of content. So we have seen huge jump in the consumption pattern. Like 3 months back when we have not implemented this algorithm, from login to consumption start was 70%. Now it is like 85% after this algorithm implementation. And the video completion percentage for overall platform was 80%. Right now it is around 90%. So that has also improved after this algorithm. Yeah.
Without getting into details, because I also am aware of certain numbers at the OTT companies. That's amazingly impressive, Shashank, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, we are also surprised. We saw the benchmarks of Z5, of course, Z5 and Hotstar. I have a few friends working in Hotstar, but I think because the number is very less right now, we have only 12,000 paying subscribers and talking about them. If things goes right, so right now our our month one retention is 85%. Month two
wow.
is 80%.
Wow.
So these numbers are really good because our user is a very different kind of user. He is in love with the application. If you go and see the reviews on the Play Store, it is more than 4.6 star. And as founders, we have given our phone number in the application itself. If you have any problem, you call us. So every day I talk to like 50, 60 users. Then, right now I have to turn it
No, but that's amazing.
on
That's
silent. Yeah, yeah.
amazing. A lot of
So we are
learning.
very much.
So, Shashank, you've represented the digital natives very well. Now, I want to move to Ronak and actually would request you to represent the non-digital oriented brands. Let's call them the traditional. I don't like the word, but traditional brands. My question to you is, Ronak, Google's answer to third-party cookies that were supposed to be deprecated was Flock, okay, but it got lost of flack. So it's a play on the words over the last few months, and finally, deadline has been shifted by few months. What this has done is actually now publishers and brands are on an overdrive to build their first-party data strategy. Now, coming to the question to you is, tell us please, what is the first-party building strategy that non-digital brands are adopting? Because I've always have had this question that a company that's selling products in millions on a monthly basis, like maybe a soap, shampoo, or any brand or any product that's mass product, how are they building or what is their thought? Give us some kind of a peek into their thought process, because that's a large market which is opening up.
Right.
We're not aware of how are they looking at first party data.
Right.
If the first party data in their case is email IDs or mobile numbers, then what are the matrices of success that they intend to build in the models from attribution of outcome perspective? So first is how will they build up and
Right.
how will they use it?
Right. So Rajiv, first to answer your question of how they are looking at it, right? So as you very rightly pointed out, that while the deadline has been shifted, I don't think the clients had already embarked on the journey. It's not like they are putting a break on it, right? They will continue their efforts. Some of the ways they are building first-party data is actually, say, you have to say mass campaigns, right? So when you do mass TV campaigns, print campaigns, digital campaigns, how do you sort of like kind of engineer all of that to collect first-party data, right? So say for example, if a brand is buying IPL sponsorship, then how do you sort of leverage that to buy first, to collect first party data in terms of activating something on your packs or activating something on your messaging and so on and so forth, right? So that's a very interesting way to collect first party data as far as non-digital brands are concerned, because it's not native to them. I think the other way the brands are looking at it is designing campaigns specifically to collect first party data, right? So say for example, in our system, we have something like Mondelez. They've done the Madbury campaign. And the whole idea is you could enter your flavors and the chocolate bar will be made of that. So that sort of campaigns are engineered specifically to collect first party data. So that's another interesting way to do it. The third important trend I think we are seeing is the fact that a lot of if you look at CRM as a tech enablement, right? You would see that with a lot of tech companies, but today we even see CPG companies having their own CRM stack, right? So in terms of collecting the PII data through activities and through marketing activities and so on and so forth. So that's a lot of companies are sort of indulging into that sort of marketing area also to collect data, right? Also the kind of experiences they are designing in terms of owned assets. So if you look at a lot of CPG companies, they are going D2C, right? Direct to consumer, where the whole transaction or the end experience is there on the site itself. So building of assets is very, very critical in terms of collection of first party data, right? So these are some of the ways in which the non-digital first brands are like sort of embracing the whole journey on on first party data, right? If I move to the second part of your question, is how is it going to be measured and so on and so forth, right? I think it's both a short term and a long term thing. So from a short term perspective, I think the cost of acquisition is going to be a very very critical thing, and all marketers keep that in check because it has to make business sense. But from a long term perspective, I think they all have understood the importance of first party data and having their own intelligence, because today getting any sort of data from they can't rely on a wall garden in terms of any that intelligence, right? So say for example, if I have my own first party data as a brand and as an advertiser, I can use it for better segmentation, I can use it for better inciting opportunities, I can use that data to cross sell upsell across the portfolio of brands. I could probably utilize it for better personalized experiences and so on and so forth to build the lifetime value of the customer. So there are a variety of use cases which actually lead to a lot of effectiveness for the brand in the long run, right? And at our end, I think we're working very very closely with brands and marketers to figure out those strategies, right, in terms of collection, in terms of deployment, and in terms of how to measure the outcomes of it.
Great, that's fantastic. So that sounds exciting. There's still few questions, but I think it's like you mentioned, it's like an evolving field. We may not have all the answers on day one. For example, ID resolution. For example, if you have resolved the ID with something like maybe a ad ID or a GID or IDFA, would they continue forever? Would they phase out? There are so many questions, but I think you've touched upon very well and you've articulated very well. And I think as a company, you guys are definitely ahead of the curve in terms of thought process. Moving to you, Aditya, for advertisers to be able to operate well in this first party ecosystem, which will definitely provide huge advantages with data and consent, etc. And it'll also increase the LTV, like Ronak just mentioned. This demands a lot of expertise in terms of manpower and technology. It cannot happen just by thinking about it. It has to be done. Now, small advertisers may not have the wherewithal to either afford maybe technology beyond a point. Implementation of CDP is not a joke. It takes a lot of money and a lot of effort. Are there any areas that you and your setup is kind of trying to offer wherein it becomes low cost of entry and there are better opportunities for the brands to participate in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we primarily focus on is making sure that we are able to democratize this entire process of data collection, data processing for small to mid-sized brands as well as publishers. So that's definitely our primary focus. Whenever we interact with them, uh, there are few things that we kind of tell them to make sure that it's just not about the technology. You also have to, it has to be driven by the business context. So the first thing that we tell them is, number one, understanding your consumer journey. And I think Shashank very well pointed out how they have tried to understand their consumer journey. So understanding your consumer journey is very critical, right from top of the funnel all the way into retention, right? You have to understand each and every aspect of the journey very well. If you don't understand that journey well, then you can use any platform and tool, fancy or not, in the world, but you will not get the kind of results that you are looking for. Now, once you understand the journey, then you have to start segmenting your customers and consumers into certain segments based on the offerings that you have for them, right? So in case of Shashank, they have done segmentation by age or by gender or other aspects, right? So you have to be able to do segmentation, and then you have to leverage the first party data from the context and the segmentation of your consumers, and then use the right measurement tools and platforms to then fine tune the tactics. So this is, I mean, at a very very high level, this is the first conversation that we have, is, yeah, fine, you want to use a cool technology and platform, but this is fundamental homework that you have to do. Now once that is done, then what we do is kind of help in quickly setting up data pipelines, pulling together online and offline data, first party and third party data. We just also make sure that our customers understand whether the third party data has a certain level of efficacy or not. Otherwise there's just a lot of data but not super useful. So we help them vet that entire thing out, and then go into the process of creating segments, pooling the users in that segments, forecasting and sales planning, so that they can actually leverage these segments from a sales and planning perspective, and then eventually measuring the engagement and ROI. So that's kind of the entire cycle that we go through, and we whether our customers are large or small, we kind of handhold them through this process and make sure that as many things as possible are completely automated, so that even if they have small teams, they are still able to leverage the power of the data that they have.
Fantastic. So basically, it's a must-have in every brand's planning,
Absolutely.
and it is CDP implementation is the beginning. It's not the end. There's a lot of work, like you rightly said. So data, everybody believes the data is gold. Whenever there is data or gold, there comes the issue of security, safety, and various other things. So, Shashank, question to you: data safety, privacy compliance, consent management, they are very, very critical going forward, and you're building the company now, which means you'll need to be cognizant of all these concerns or future concerns at the right stage. You are a digital native company. How are you ensuring these things right in place?
So right now, all of our data sits in Google Data Center, and we have created a VPC layer, which means no one else can enter that database we have. Only our servers can do that. And within the team also, the specific laptops we have, they can only access those machines. No one else can access that. And as far as the security from the user's perspective, if the user no longer wants to be with us and they don't want us to have their data with us, then they can delete the app from their phone, and they can ask us to remove all the data we have. So in this way, they can ask us to remove their all data we have.
Got it. So you're absolutely well prepared. And interestingly, you don't have the ad model right now. To be honest, the life with advertising on VOD, which is the AVOD, is actually way more complicated because the level of compliance there is too much. So I got the answer, and I think you're well prepared. You're well structured. So Ronak, I'll move on to you. Advertisers with a very strong customer data will be able to collaborate well with publishers and data companies that also have a strong first party data. It's a known fact. So today, let's take an example of PhonePe and let's take an example of Z5.
Right.
So both are digital. One is publisher and one is kind of a publisher and a service provider direct to customer.
Right.
That's the kind of play between the two. What is your view on privacy compliant marketplaces that will open up in due course, that will allow demand and supply to meet with data as a unifying layer? Do you see that becoming a reality, or will it still continue to be like a theoretical concept, because we haven't seen success yet of a scalable marketplace wherein multiple players come into play? So imagine a Z Sony Woot coming from one side and digital and non-digital brands coming from the other side, all collaborating, enriching their data, and actually targeting on those platforms. It's like a utopian scenario. So how far do you see this converting into reality?
This is the collaboration partnership is going to be mainstay as we go ahead, right? And the way the whole regulation is moving, in the way the whole data ecosystem is evolving, and so on and so forth. So you may not see so much in India, but globally it's happening in a very very big way, where brands are entering into partnerships with each other and sort of using the data to enrich, to embellish and target, and so on and so forth, right? Even if you look at, say, for example, OTTs as a as a whole service, a lot of OTTs are coming together and being part of the whole DSP environments, right? So today, if you look at a Paytm DSP environment, right, they've tied up with all OTTs, and all the transactional signals which are possible in terms of deterministic audiences, you can sort of utilize that intelligence to for OTT, because for OTT targeting. Even if you look at the XMP product we have at Group M, for example, the OTT exchange, I think that's done for very, very similar reasons, right? And it gives you very interesting targeting options and so on. So I feel that everybody is going to come together because and it's going to be a whole era of partnership. It's going to be a whole era of collaboration, and them coming together. So that's the way at least I see it, and I think it benefits everybody, whether it's the publishers, whether it's advertisers, and even us as agencies, because we see the merit of it for everyone actually.
Definitely, I completely agree with you, and I hope these scale very fast because the only way to grow is to collaborate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, even now, PMPs and PDs are not able to scale simply because of low collaboration and everybody trying to build a walled garden. So, for some other day, we'll discuss walled gardens versus marketplaces. But Aditya, over to you. What are the other initiatives that ad tech companies are taking to move towards a transparent, very critical, transparent and trustworthy supply chain? So those are the buzzwords. If you can talk a little about transparency and trustworthiness.
Yeah, I mean, definitely transparency is at the forefront. The IB did start off with ads.txt and sellers.json, which kind of have had mixed results in terms of trust and transparency. We have seen scenarios where, especially ads.txt has been abused pretty badly. So for every initiative there will be some exceptions. So definitely the industry bodies are doing bringing in initiatives for trust and transparency, and those will continue to evolve and get better. This entire thought process of collaboration and consortium, where it a co-optation, right, where you have publishers that are competing with each other, still kind of pool their audiences together and offer that in the marketplace. That will also help bring the level of trust and transparency, because everybody now is able to kind of see the type of data that's available. And then, even though trust and transparency sound like very very heavy words, they don't really have to be. You can do small things that have really large impact. For example, when we work with demand side partners, uh, we we ask them to share as much data as possible, just through daily reporting. So just for demand partners who do that, that is a huge step forward in terms of trust and transparency, because that means that coming from the demand side, they are willing and able to share all the information that will really help build a long-term relationship with the sell side. So these are the some of the things that that can be done, and I think as time passes by, we will see more initiatives coming in from trust and transparency perspective, especially in this privacy era.
Fantastic. So I think we had a fantastic discussion today. If I were to just quickly sum up, looks like the future is completely data oriented. Be it first party, second party collaboration. It's all about collaborative efforts, safety, security, transparency, all strong adjectives. And I think we'll learn a lot from either the early adopters or from advanced markets. I think we're learning fast. It's a matter of time. we're on the right path. Thanks a lot, everybody. It was a fantastic discussion.
Thank you, Rajiv, for bringing out that insightful conversation. And thank you to all our speakers today for sharing those experiences. Moving on, our second session focuses on the optimum utilization of first-party data for revenue management. Yes, all of us are collecting this great data like crazy people, more so after the news of the cookie-less world coming up. But how do we really use this for yield optimization to create a strong foundation for content monetization? Joining us again here is Aditya Belande, founder and CEO of Yukta Media, and Rajiv Dal, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at Z5. We also have with us Chanpreet Arora, who is the business head at Woot, and Sudhir Sundarani, who's the head of ads monetization at ShareChat, to give us their views. Welcome, speakers, and over to you again, Rajiv.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the panel. Over the next 30 minutes, we will discuss various aspects of like shifting of user preferences between paid to free consumption of audio video content, data-driven targeting, first-party data, programmatic advertising, measurement, and attribution. So there are various aspects of the entertainment business that we'll touch upon. Let me kickstart by sharing where we are with regards to consumption of media today. The all-pervading digital media is now touching a universe of almost 500 million Indians every month. And this is talking about the universe that's active using their digital services on their smartphones. In terms of engagement, the connected Indians have spent around 1.4 trillion minutes, very tall number, in the month of April. To simplify, it translates to about 2 hours of active internet usage a day. And let me tell you, 50% out of that time, which is 1 hour a day, every day for all 500 million, is actually spent on social media or video entertainment platforms, right? So they're getting entertained. It's becoming like a serious source of content consumption. Today on our panel, we have a very fair representation from both the categories that I touched upon. Chanpreet leads AWOD at Woot, one of the leading OTT players in India. Sudhir leads monetization strategy at ShareChat and Moj. Aditya is the founder of Yukta Media that helps media organizations with process efficiency. Now, this is like a robust panel to discuss and touch upon all the aspects that I mentioned earlier. To start the discussion, let me kickstart the discussion with Chanpreet and touch upon ad-funded models versus subscription models. So Chanpreet, in the last 15 months, OTT platforms actually got a special kind of a runway to fly. There is growth across the spectrum, be it subscription-based video on demand, advertising-based video on demand, broadcaster-based video on demand, which is the live channels featuring on connected TV and mobile devices, as well as transaction-based video on demand. Everything is growing. And they all have very distinct revenue streams, yet they're growing together. And out of this, we have noticed that connected TV is one of the fastest growing categories that actually blurs the line between digital and linear. Now, what has been your experience and how do you see it going over the next few years? Do you see ad-supported models scaling up, or do you see the preference tilt towards paid models? So over to you, Chanpreet.
Okay. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and discuss this exciting subject. I just want to make a couple of observations here, given that we've been around for a while. Video entertainment has been and is the most preferred medium of entertainment for the mass audiences across India. And we have simply moved from TV consumption of video to a more personalized digital consumption of video. And this is a true path-breaking moment for India as well, because for the first time we have entered into media dark markets, going from 66% to 91%, tele density. We have over 324 odd million just OTT users in the country, right? And this has given us an opportunity to provide a personalized entertainment experience to people who otherwise potentially were at best in a single TV household module where they watched whatever either the head of the family or the child of the family was watching, and so our user behaviors and time slots were highly defined. So on one hand, it's really exciting to see the explosion, and even 2% market share at a larger level can make you profitable, because you can actually choose a sliver of audiences and be very targeted. Coming to your second point on is connected TVs, I'm just going to take it point by point. Is connected TVs here to stay and here to grow? Absolutely. The average cost of a digital TV is as low as a 12,000 rupee or 15,000 rupee mobile phone today, right? So if a person is on a Android mobile phone, they may as well also shift to eventually a digital TV. And so connected TVs is here to stay, and with investments from Geo Fiber and other telco players coming in, there is a big fillip we are going to see. I think, if I'm not wrong, internationally, up to 25% is the share of connected TVs in the total television consumption space, and India is not going to be far behind there. However, the challenge will be, Rajiv, that connected TVs started as an SVOD phenomenon, where subscribers who were going with the paid service were going there. So the advertiser-led platforms such as Voot, which is a hybrid platform, or even Hotstar, they are having to now adopt we have to adopt our products and our user experiences quite deftly for this. And there are other challenges of connected TVs, which are unlike mobile, where we have an Android or an iOS platform. Largely, India is a 90+% Android market. Connected TVs is not like that. Every different player comes with its own ad tech stack requirement. And so that's a challenge in terms of a business model being able to serve. But if we flip this around to the more exciting consumer side, I think India has always been, will always remain, mark my words, an advertiser funded business. And this is not just from India, but even if you look at Hulu, which is highly successful OTT player in the US, they are entirely aggressively on the hybrid model, where you can actually have 3-tiered services, which is totally ad funded, very low pay input. And then there's ad light, and then there is totally ad free. In India as well, you will increasingly see that sports, which was being consumed on TV, one of the highest subscription drivers, which has moved to SVOD, which is subscriber VOD, or will even generate TVOD, will have ad experience. Because it is not possible, given our low subscriber revenue, it is not possible for us to survive with only subscription revenue. So India will continue to be at least 10x in ad revenues, if not more, vis-a-vis subscription revenues, is my guess. And connected TVs are very much here to stay. But we should be looking at hybrid models with at least premium and live content being monetized even behind the paywall with ads. So yeah, that's my bit.
Great. So basically, like many other industries, what you're suggesting is things will coexist. So there will be a free market, which is people not paying for content, yet maybe seeing advertising to take care of. And simultaneously, there'll be growth of subscription models. So everything will grow simultaneous. We have observed this similar movement even in retail, where in one hand, the malls and modern trade was developing in India, and the other hand, simultaneously, e-commerce has shaped up. So it's a similar kind of scenario. Let me move over to Sudhir. I have a lot of questions to ask you, Sudhir. As per the latest report, now I'm giving a reference of a firm that doesn't exist in India anymore, but it's important to put in perspective. So TikTok has surpassed Facebook in terms of time spent. This is no joke. This is a big deal. Even if it's happened in one market of UK, the trend is visible. We all know where the market is headed towards. You are in a very unique position where you have one of India's largest short content platform in one hand, in the name of Moj, and you also have largest Indic language social platform in the other hand. So it's like you got a killer combination. So what have you observed vis-a-vis, say, other platforms that are social or short content in the last year, which is 2020? And what should we expect in 2021? Because the way you guys are moving, where do you think you will reach? How will the market shape up with regards to share of attention and user engagement vis-a-vis other UGC platforms or social platforms? Uh, Whichever way you want to cut the market, slice and dice the market, give us a perspective on what it looks like over the next 1 year. And then please talk about what will be the construct over 2025, over next 4 to 5 years, from your perspective with regards to what do you feel, what will happen? Will it be ad funded? Because your investment is largely behind ad funded models. Or do you see, like Chanpreet mentioned, it should be a simultaneous growth for both the models? Over to you, Sudhir.
Sure. I mean, you got it right. Last year was very good for ShareChat, and I mean, just to give you some numbers, last year we were approximately 40 million MAU number, and right now we are 160 million MAU number on ShareChat. So, which was a 4x growth that happened over a period of 12 months, and not just the volume point of view, even from the content consumption perspective, what we saw, so at a 40 million base, it was 50-50 content consumption between static content and video content. And all of a sudden, it has transformed into 70-75% video content consumption. So not just Mod, which is 100% video proposition, ShareChat, which has all plethora of content, is also seeing heavy usage of video content as such. So definitely the user base is investing more time on video content consumption. That's like a very visible pattern. From time engagement perspective as well, approximately 30 minutes they are spending on the platform every day. And so this is now, and in terms of where we see it's going in say 1-2 years, so March plus ShareChat is right now 220 million user base, 280 million user base. We want this number to go to at least 400-500 million user base in next 3 or 4 years. Up till now, I mean, there was some spike because of ban, and then we have seen a kind of a stable trajectory of upward movement. But from what say TikTok was doing earlier, it seems like there is enough space to be captured, right? I mean, so we're probably doing better than the competition that we have, but still a big space is left open to cover up. And from what we are seeing, it's still a matter of say getting personalization right for right content to right user. If you get that game right, there is enough space here to occupy in terms of user base. That's the story of ShareChat and Moj right now. In terms of how I see the market going from say the audience that we're acquiring, we're seeing that a lot of these guys are say first time internet users, and they're discovering a lot of things on the platform. I mean, one of the persona of ShareChat would be say my mom, who doesn't understand English, but has adopted to phone like a smartphone like anything. So I've seen first her getting on a WhatsApp and saying ki ye kisi ne message bheja hai, how nice it is, to then having that age ki I want to respond to it, so can I get a Indic language keyboard here? From there to now, because of COVID, can I do my grocery shopping myself? All this is like, or say buying curtains and everything. So I'm seeing that this kind of audience who probably doesn't understand English, but is getting used to doing things on internet. So this user base is learning transaction. I mean, of course, everyone knows how the mail guys or the business folks are learning to order in bulk or doing payments as such. So this is tomorrow's market getting ready is what I see, but exciting space for us.
Very interesting. So one side item, is TikTok coming back?
I mean, we don't want them to come back probably, but I mean, it seems very unlikely.
Sure. No, I just thought I'll check with you. So that's very interesting and exciting to know. The numbers are huge, and I think you observed growth, which was like explosive. And hats off to your team as well that has managed to actually roll out services overnight. So we all are looking at Mohalla Tech as a company to be. So
Yeah.
excited to look forward to next 6 months to 12 months of war between the four giants. Aditya, moving on to you. What trends have you observed across video and social platforms? And what does the industry need in terms of support to push the envelope further? Especially, I'm referring to ad supported models where there are challenges are too many. It's not only just pay for the service, have a good user experience, good content recommendation engine. Ad funded models need too many things. I need the CTR, VTR, OTR, every possible thing under the sun. And I need to build the clients. I need to be very efficient in the process. Since you work with various media companies, please throw some light on this area.
Sure, sure. I think one of the most critical things that we have noticed, and which now large media houses are kind of pivoting towards, is a balance between revenue and engagement. It cannot be lopsided on one side or the other. There has to be a really good balance. So a one size fit all solution really doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work for the publisher, neither would it work for the users or the consumers who are coming to consume the content. So really you have to take a personalized approach into consideration from a business perspective as well as from the user perspective. So that's number one thing. Now that doesn't simplify the problem of ad tech at all. If anything, that further complicates the already challenging ad tech system that we have. Like Chanpit alluded to, it's the ad tech piece on the back end is fairly complicated, uh, but it's a problem that can be solved. But before we go to discussing of how we can address that problem, the first thing to understand is have a very balanced approach. So in order to understand the balanced approach, the first thing to know is the context of the user. And context of the user is very, very, very critical. For example, let's say you have a video streaming service. You should know how many, you should have very deep understanding about the user session in real time, what content has the user watched, and really use that information from a content recommendation perspective or ad breaks perspectives. It doesn't really make sense to just have specific ad breaks at specific points in time, because as as the user is spending more and more time in one single session, you want to continue to reward the user by showing fewer ads, and eventually you want to transition that user from an ad supported model to a subscription model, right? So I completely agree with Chanpit that we will have a mix of ad supported as well as subscription based model, but ideally the publishers would want to move as many users into the subscription model, because once the users are in the subscription model, you can really build a very long-term relationship with these consumers, right? And then they're not only consuming the content, but in the process of consuming content, they're also helping you understand what kind of content they really like and helping you build the next generation of content libraries, so that you can either syndicate the content or build your own content. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, more from a publisher's perspective, is to make sure that even though the tech is complicated, but things around that, right, billing and reconciliation, or working with agencies and brands to make sure that they're getting the information that they want. So all of these dots can be joined together seamlessly. And if they're able to do that, by doing that, they will be able to, push their business to the next level, so that their internal teams can work together, so that their agencies and brands can get the information that they are looking for. They can serve better content to their users. So everyone who is involved in this ecosystem around
the publisher will be connected, and that can be done by using a platform that can pull all of this together.
So that was, I think, extremely valuable and important for every organization to understand, to invest in the right technology at the right time, because you are suddenly bulldozed with tons of content, you don't know what to do, or rather data, you don't know what to do with it. So you're saying sort out right in the beginning. So we've touched upon, and I think we've all concluded that all the models, that is subscription-based model, where consumer pays and consumes, versus ad-funded models are going to coexist. Now let's zoom into what could be the next step if it were ad funded. So Chanpreet, without a doubt, AWOD video advertising is one of the fastest growing ad categories in India, and everybody has very high level of interest in participating in AWOD advertising as well. Source of revenue is split right now between managed, which is we loosely call it as direct, and programmatic sources of demand. For example, I can refer to what we observe is approximately 60% of our inventory is currently being sold programmatically. And when I'm saying programmatic in this case is typically connected to the demand side platforms like DV360 or MediaMath. Going forward, do you see further growth in demand through programmatic channels and marketplaces, or do you see a shift towards walled gardens and brands dealing directly with the publishers? How do you see it happening?
Okay, so thanks. I think there should be a dialogue between both of us rather than you asking me a question. Sure. But I just want to clarify there are 2-3 things, right, that are going to become really valuable with the sunset of this cookie-based targeting. And, you know, there being this anarchy phase coming up where marketers are struggling with what will be the right approach for marketing. I think first-party data owners like premium OTT platforms such as ours, or any platform that has logged in users, is going to stand at an advantage to be able to serve ads programmatically, or even serve ads in a more reliable environment. So there are 2-3 things that are going to play a really important role. One is whether we have first party data, whether we do programmatic or direct business. Secondly, what is the brand safety level of trust that we have on a certain platform. I can't really speak for platforms which have UGC, maybe Sudhir is better place to answer that. But for platforms such as ours, which are premium, we see a demand for both. I think there is something to be said about awareness campaigns, and then some, and then about performance campaigns. I think we are still making that transition, very frankly, Rajiv, from digital not being seen as just a performance campaign platform. And I think the lockdown or the shift during the last 2 years to digital consumption has really helped us blur those lines. I wouldn't be so open to share the breakup of our open auction versus private auction revenues, but we are still a very direct relationship first platform, more dependent on private marketplaces. I do feel that the private marketplaces and programmatic guaranteed kind of businesses would be the first move that's happening. I would like to know actually, Rajiv, from you, what is your platform preferring? Private auctions or open auctions, or are you actually doing both?
So Chanpreet, so at our end, we are observing programmatic right now being dealt as automation of the process, to be honest. Most of our business is, even if it's programmatic, it's not really auction based. So we try and support PMPs, private marketplaces. We try and support preferred deals as well, but honestly, none of them scale up on the platform. And our observation has been, and we know the reasons why as well. When I think from an advertiser's perspective, it should be PMP and preferred deals. But when you think from a publisher's perspective, what goes in our favor, we've been sticking to that. So I personally believe that the ultimately market has to move towards preferred or PMP, which is all auction based. Guaranteed deals were only a foot in the door, only a starting point. It can't be running forever. it will be a sub part of it, but not a 90% part of the market. That's what I believe. So, any closing remarks from your side on this point, on how do you see it shaping up? And then we'll move to Sudhir, and I have a question to ask him. I've been waiting for a while.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think private marketplaces have a long way to go. I think there is a room for us to collaborate as premium OTT players, because I think the real big challenge is that any other marketplace that we go into outside being in our own walled garden directly puts us in conflict with user generated content. And I don't think that is a problem that we have resolved for yet. So till that happens, I think it is still going to be the walled gardens and still going to be individual platforms that are dealing directly with advertisers.
Sure. I think that clarifies the picture. Moving to you, Sudhir. So you are currently offering various formats of advertising. Like you said, what has grown in last 1 year is actually video much more than display. Not to say that the static has not grown, but like you mentioned, massive growth, explosion in video consumption. So you must be sitting on a lot of video inventory as well. Now, my question to you is, since you know your users very well, you curate content for them, and you allow them to then post some content as well. So because you know them so well, should the advertisers come and work directly with publishers like yourself, or in general, would this deliver better value for them, or is it better to go via programmatic channels or via some other mediators or mediating agencies? If you can share some experiences where you could add much more value to an advertiser when they come, and then when they came up and they started working with you directly, that will make it very easy for us to understand.
Sure. So in my experience, what I've seen is, how should I put it? So I am a strong proponent of, say, auction engine working, because at the end of the day, ads are a perishable commodity. And I mean, in a demand supply for any commodity, auction is the best way to monetize for the platform. My advice to all the advertisers, work with the big publishers, because they give you that reach spectrum to solve. And for a moment, if you think of that problem from an advertiser's perspective, he doesn't want to work with 20 guys, right? I mean, it is humanly not possible. I mean, that's the reason why they want to go to these walled gardens, which solve 70-80% of the problems for them. In fact, because this first year has been around building the product proposition to go out in the market, we are launching our own programmatic buy platform. And with the same purpose, okay, one, pricing is not solved, and pricing is not stable as well, right? I mean, when Diwali comes, people want to buy it expensive. When say COVID came, people were willing to sell cheap, and this direct buy schema where you prefix the price doesn't go well with that way of, say, buy habit that the marketers are getting used to in general. So so my advice or my understanding has been that if you're big enough, you launch your own programmatic buy channel. If you're a small, consolidate, right? I mean, because at the heart of it, no marketer wants to work with 20 guys. I mean, the marketing guy at ShareChat, I mean, same problem, right? I mean, his 80% of the problem is solved by the wall gardens. Then it's like little, you can call it laziness or whatever you call it. I mean, it's humanly not possible to work with many guys. So I see big opportunity of consolidation and coming as one front. The other thing is, I mean, this performance buy that is happening. So the wall gardens generally work on, say, CPM basis or CPC basis. They don't allow you to buy beyond that. The game for, say, smaller publishers has been in some sense killed by the remnant inventory, which the affiliates are buying, or like, I mean, they go to the advertisers and kill a deal at 20 rupees CPI, or say some down funnel metric, right? I mean, and then this guy comes to the publisher saying, you get me that metric, I'll give you the money. And the yield for the publisher comes out to be a very small number generally. I mean, so if, say, from a pure publisher point of view, I would say auction is the best way to work. Cut out all the affiliates. I mean, that's in your interest, or that's in my interest to work, because at the end of the day, you have much higher cost of acquisition of the content. We also have significant cost of acquisition of the content. and Revenant doesn't solve that unit economics for you, right? I mean, so right now that game is played in a supply surplus environment. That's fine, but we should kill that, say, excess source for the advertisers, which is uh, not in favor of, say, publisher dynamics, right? I mean, economics wise, it is not sustainable for long. That's my understanding on the subject.
Okay, I think you've clarified very well, and you've taken and defined very clear position as well. So I think since you yourself, and you've also indicated that you are going to be a walled garden large enough to solve marketing problems as well. So you can pick up a brand, and through your demand side platform that you're building or intending to build a programmatic platform, you should be able to solve a lot of advertising challenges and still get the best yield and money for your inventory. So that's great. I think that if you're large, be independent, maybe move towards being a walled garden. If you're small, decide fast, consolidate. It doesn't make sense, and marketers don't want to deal beyond maybe 10 parties.
Yep.
So, Aditya, this is very interesting. So, want to have your view on this. You work with various media companies. What are you observing in these conversations that are revenue oriented? Do you see a shift towards walled gardens because of the large entities and self-managed platforms, or a shift towards programmatic marketplaces where actually inventory becomes kind of commodity, and there are middle layers which are defining the fate of companies? And how do you intend to support the ecosystem, or what are you doing in this area, if you can throw some light?
Sure, sure. So, first of all, I think going back to the previous point, direct versus programmatic. Uh, I mean, about a decade ago, when I was working at Yahoo, we would see very large advertisers like P&G spending a significant amount of money just in experimentation with Yahoo, because they wanted to try out new things. And that was the beauty of working with these large brands with large budgets, because you could try out many different things and build out new experiences for their consumers. Now, obviously, when you're doing this through programmatic, it has its own limitations. Programmatic does bring in efficiencies, but at the same time, there are some limitations on what you can do on top of the regular connecting of the pipes to buy and sell inventory. So I don't think direct will go away. Programmatic will also continue to be there to bring some efficiencies of transactions. But eventually, I believe that publishers and brands should work together directly, especially when they are working on cutting edge stuff and really exploratory stuff. So I believe that will happen, and that's kind of what we see not only in US and India, but in other Southeast Asian markets as well, where a significant revenue for large media houses does come from direct campaigns, and where it's not direct, it will be through PMP deals. And the other thing that we have seen is focus on audiences. So it's not just about selling an ad space; it is about giving access to the brands to a certain set of audiences, and then deciding the pricing on the audience, as opposed to whether it's a 300 by 250 or whether it's a pre-roll, mid-roll, or post-roll, or things like that, right? So those things come into picture, but it's primarily the conversation is driven by what type of audience it is. And in order to kind of control all of that first party data, generating audiences out of that, we definitely are seeing a shift towards self-managed platforms. Now, earlier, all of these things were kind of outsourced to different DMPs or SSPs or DSPs, but we see large to mid-size agencies and brands kind of taking that in-house. We also see large media houses taking that in-house on the publishing side. They want that control. They now have better understanding of how do they want to package their inventory, how do they want to create the segments that they would want to offer to their brands and agencies that they work with. So there's definitely in-housing and self-managed platforms. It's almost like what happened to supply chain and logistics about 20 years ago, where everything was Excel driven, and they were working in silos, and then Oracle came up with quote to cash or procure to pay, the end-to-end workflows. And that is one of the things that's happening to publishing right now, where all the functions are being joined together on a single platform. So almost like they are coming up with their own ERP, so that the CXOs, the CEOs, the CROs can get a holistic view of that business. And the only way to do that is by working with self-managed platforms or in-housing technology. So that's kind of what we are seeing. And in terms of how we support that, so our platform kind of helps these large media houses take that entire control in-house, and helps them to go all the way from tracking supply into billing, revenue, and reconciliation. So it's been an interesting journey. Every time we work with a large publisher, it's very interesting to see what their vision is and how they want to go from completely fragmented to completely seamless model.
Very interesting. So I think the move is completely towards more of in-housing. Control your own destiny seems to be the outcome of the second part of our discussion. And coexistence, like in most of the industries, everything will coexist. Nothing will collapse overnight. So what, like you said, direct deals will continue to happen. And we also see a lot of shift towards non-inventory led play that publishers are taking. Will always be direct deals. So content development, branded content development, AFPs will always be models that any which way programmatically cannot be controlled. So very exciting. So we've covered two critical parts. Now the third one is, now that we are in a supply surplus market, there is more inventory in the market than demand, and somehow due to pandemic, the publishers have grown exponentially. Like if you look at Sudhir, he mentioned that they've grown 4x only on one platform and massively on the second platform. So every publisher is now offering more inventory in the market. What does that mean? What it means is, now there has to be other better ways, not only efficient buying, but also looking at, like we discussed earlier, we mentioned, everybody mentioned first party data. So now moving towards this part of the discussion, which is to say that if privacy is now at center stage. So one is, you need first party data, but you need to be careful on what you collect, what you do with it as well. So privacy globally is right now at center stage, and making first party data as the key driver that's impacting monetization. On one hand, regulators across countries are creating a framework. As we all know, PDPB is right now just waiting for the parliament to give the approval on the bill. And what I read is, it's GDPR plus. So it'll be as complex or as stringent as GDPR norms that EU follows. And there are some pluses on that. There are more than GDPR, right? So one hand, the regulators are creating a framework, and the other hand, companies are rolling out first party data generation initiatives. I spoke to leading publishers because of the deprecation of cookies that was slated in the coming year. So I spoke to all the publishers, and I got to know that everybody has now adopted what should have happened maybe 5 years back is now getting into their first party data strategy. Every organization is only talking first party data strategy. Every brand is talking first party data strategy. Now coming to you, Chanpreet, at Woot, you've been very clear about login based relationship with the users, which is, I'm sure, that ensures very high degree of first party data collection at your end. So what's your strategy on data enrichment? How has your experience been working with third parties? I'm sure you must be working with some third parties as well for building a broader view on users. Yes. And how do you see it shaping up in future from a content recommendation engine perspective, as well as the ad recommendation engine or targeting perspective?
So thanks. That's a really pertinent question. So yes, you're absolutely right. To everyone's dismay and everyone's, it tests our patience every day when we look at our numbers and conversions. And when Many other players allow a lot of video usage without any registration, whereas we are very stringent about it. We've stuck to our ethos of knowing our consumer. So there are 2-3 initiatives. Let me just talk about revenue first. There are 2-3 initiatives that we are committed to. One is understanding our audiences across our networks, which is not just on Woot, but on social platforms, on TV as well, because we share a lot of content with our TV network, and also open video platforms which we use for promotion, whether like YouTube, for instance. We invest a lot of time in understanding audiences from various cuts of interest. Let's just call them different interests, and then we've started working very successfully with third-party DSPs, including certain DSPs now in the market from e-commerce players, and we're starting to see a fantastic result when we work together for advertisers, because there is a significant overlap as the e-com market consolidates. There is a significant overlap between OTT users as well as e-commerce users across platforms. So as Flipkart and Amazon and the likes come out with their DSPs, that has been an interesting experiment for us. Having said that, we are dedicated at a product and tech level to continuously enhance our understanding through investments in DMP. That's where we stand, and that is taking us off into the content recommendation journeys as well. So that's a different topic altogether.
Very interesting. So a lot of exciting work is happening. So over to you. You're also a closed user group, which means a lot of logged in base, at least on one of your platforms, which is as you mentioned, 160 million a month. That should provide you a lot of meaningful user preference signals. How do you use these signals in ad targeting and your yield optimization models currently? What has been your experience of working with third-party data providers, and what's the way forward? Tell us more about it.
So like I said, ShareChat and Moj up 99% app ecosystem, and we pick a lot of information on the users via that schema. We also explicitly ask a lot of user information from the users, and of course, so demographics wise, we are very rich on database. We do good content segregation as well for our content personalization. Even from that perspective, we have good information on the platform. And of course, the other signals like the device price and everything we have. What I've seen is that while we are good on data signals, the adoption cycle on the advertiser side is a bit slow. So we offer all the signals to the market. They take us a few. What we have done is right now, we're using these signals to enrich our algorithms for better ad personalization as such. This gives us, say, arsenal to compete with the wall gardens who are optimizing on down funnel metrics. And if you have to survive in that game to compete with the wall gardens, we have to at some level deliver on the down funnel matrix for our advertisers, particularly if we are as big as what we are today and whatever our aspirations are. So from that perspective, we believe that signals implicit uses for algorithm is the right now strategy. And of course, the wall gardens also work because the outer contour of targeting is provided by the marketing managers as such, right? That first level of performance optimization comes from there. Regarding your question on the third-party data, we have had mixed experiences. Some of the guys provide good signals, but a lot of guys, there is this term deterministic versus probabilistic. So, if I don't have a deterministic data, I start playing that game on probabilistic data. So, I was defining the third-party data quality as such. So, we have had mixed experience. Some of these guys have good data, but it's modeled with a lot of, say, inefficient data as well. I was defining that term deterministic versus probabilistic data. So a lot of these third party who do not have deterministic data come up with these variables based on some probabilistic algorithm as such, which has its own efficiency curve, right? I mean, if you hire a smart tech on your side, probabilistic data, you can do it yourself as well. So you don't need a third party to do probabilistic signaling for you. Yeah, that's my understanding on, say, usage of third party data.
Sure. So the feedback that I have is third-party data mixed kind of a view. You can't take it on its face value because even they don't have any deterministic sources in India. So there's a root cause problem, like we all know, that if the source itself is little poor right from the beginning of chain, it is going to lead to poor results. But like you mentioned, you are generating multiple layers of additional first party data and knowledge on your user. I think that will go long term. And
Right.
in fact, I would go to a level of saying that there has to be collaboration between yourself or publishers of your size and stature and other publishers who've got maybe some varied signals to put it together and actually create more value for the overall chain. So Aditya, moving to you, with privacy being priority and PBPB around the corner, what are your specific discussions that you're doing in the industry on consent management, especially like we know post cookies, even MAIDs, which is more of mobile ad IDs, be it GAID or IDFA, they will also phase out not in a very far future. So 1 year down the line, we may have a scenario of no IDs that can be stored. So
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Rajiv, right now there is also, there are also talks about having dynamic MAC addresses. Imagine if that happens. So this identity will only become so fluid that that you won't really understand who's who. So you take this ever-changing identity model and then sprinkle or layer privacy regulations on top of it, and it creates a very volatile, interesting mix for not only for publishers but advertisers as well, everybody in the ecosystem. And as we have seen, folks have really tried to grapple with the problem in the last 24 months, and with cookies going away. So yes, that is numero uno conversation every time we are talking to our prospects and customers, and they are trying to address it. Now, most folks outside of India have, tried to implement consent management solutions. So they are very popular now. I'm not sure, how robust they are in terms of, there's so much variety. For some it's just a checkbox, and others do take it very seriously. But what we have done is we have tried to make sure that whatever downstream data that we are getting from these systems, that we are actually making sure that we are only leveraging the data which has been consent approved, so to say. And only then that goes to the next step of segmentation and retargeting, so on and so forth. So that's one thing that we do. Second is we also make sure that we educate our customer base and help them get up to speed with the latest regulations around privacy and everything of that sort. So that's how we kind of take care of this problem as of now. It's going to be dynamic for some time to come. So we'll just kind of continue to evolve along with it.
great. So I think our there are endless questions. I could go on and on, but we have to wind up now. So I think just to conclude, first of all, thanks a lot for everyone's time. And conclusion seems to be SWOD, AWOD, TWOD, BWOD, all WODs are going to coexist. Programmatic and direct is going to coexist, but first party is the way forward.
Yes.
And on certain aspects, dealing directly with the publisher seems to be the way forward, because they are going to be way more enriched than maybe the marketplaces. So the debate is on. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a nice evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you.
Thanks.